Hello everyone, welcome to Headlines of the Day. This is 8th of April 2022 and we are back again with some of the major articles from the Hindu newspaper. Let's begin our today's discussion with the very first article on page number 1 from GS2 International Relations. The article is headlined as Russia suspended from Rights Council. India abstains from vote at the United Nations General Assembly. From this article, you have to consider why was Russia's membership in the Human Rights Council suspended? Response of India. You have to know about the Human Rights Council, its members, objectives, India and Human Rights Council. Moving further on page number 2 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there's an article. High Court asks Delhi State Election Commission to list the VVPAT compatible EVMs. From this article, you have to consider what are the VVPATs, how do VVPATs machine work, differences between VVPAT and EVM, the issues related to them, and what are the measures announced by ECI to enhance transparency during elections. Moving further on page number 3 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there's an article Criminal Procedure Bill will create foolproof system. From this article, you have to understand what are the major provisions of Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022, its objectives, criticism, and what is the possible way forward. Moving further on page number 5 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there are two articles. The first one is headlined as All 24 ministers in Andhra Pradesh cabinet submit their resignations to CM. From this article, you have to understand about the Council of Ministers, the constitutional provisions, the appointment of ministers, responsibilities of ministers. Further on, there's an article High Court seeks centre's stand on Silver Line SAI survey. So, from this article, you have to understand what is the Silver Line project, why there was need for the Silver Line project, where does the project stand now, and why are there protests against this particular project, government stand, observation of court, and what is the possible scenario ahead. Moving further on page number 6 and 7, there are two articles from GS2 International Relations. First one is about Ukraine and anatomy of India's neutrality. From this article, you have to know about India's approach to conflicts in the past, its response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, how a breakdown in ties between Russia and West will impact India, why India is faced with a difficult choice of picking a side. How does the Russian invasion of Ukraine mark the sharpest manifestation of new global disorder? Also, India's national interest and what is the possible scenario ahead. On page number 7, there's an article Beyond Border Gavaskar. This is an interesting article. From this article, you have to consider the key features of India Australia Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, its coverage, aims and objectives, the economic gains linked to it, and what is the possible way forward. Moving further on page number 7, from GS3 Economy section, there's an article about the petrol prices increase in India. How much more will the petrol price increase in India? From this article, you have to consider why are the prices soaring, when will this trend abate, and what are the options available for handling it. Moving further on page number 8 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there's an article, the fine print on the new tax on employees' provident fund income. So from this article, you have to consider what are the guidelines on taxing provident fund contributions, who is going to be impacted. On page number 9 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there's an article about manual scavenging. So the article is headlined as The Manacles of Caste in Sanitation Work. From this article, you have to consider who are manual scavengers, challenges faced by them, the government measures to tackle manual scavenging, key analysis, and what is the positive way forward. Moving further on page number 10 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there's an article about Mulla Periyar Dam. From this article, the key things to consider are you have to know about the Mulla Periyar Dam, the current dispute, how it began, how does the Dam Safety Act is sought to be linked to the Mulla Periyar Dam, and what is the possible scenario ahead. And the article is headlined as Mulla Periyar Supreme Court refuses to overhaul the supervisory panel. Alright, moving further on page number 11 from GS2 International Relations, there's an article about India-US 2+2 dialogue will discuss key issues, says the Ministry of External Affairs. From this article, you have to understand how the 2+2 dialogue with the US will provide an opportunity to exchange views on important regional and global developments. What is India-US bilateral agenda related to foreign policy, defense and security, latest development in Ukraine and bilateral ties, and how both sides can work together to address common interests and concerns. Moving further on page number 12 from GS2 Polity and Governance, there are two articles. Around 100 pensions donated. From this article, you have to understand what is the Donate a Pension program and what are its objectives. The second article is about public participation sought for child protection. From this article, you have to understand what are the guidelines for the Mission Vatsalya scheme, its aims and objectives. Moving further on page number 14 from GS3 economy section, there are two articles. First one is related to Gati Shakti project. Gati Shakti PLI will offset global headwinds, spur growth, says the finance ministry. From this article, you have to understand what are the geopolitical conflicts and their consequent impact on food, fertilizer, and crude oil prices, and how Gati Shakti and the production linked incentive PLI schemes will offset global headwinds and drive investment, resulting in high post recovery growth for Indian economy. The second article is headlined as Nuanced Calibrated Approach Essential for CBDC, says the Reserve Bank of India Deputy T. Ravi Shankar. From this article, you have to consider what is the central bank digital currency CBDC and how does the introduction of CBDC give a big boost to the digital economy. All right. Well, that's a wrap of today's edition of Headlines of the Day. For regular updates, you can follow us on our social media handles, and for more such videos, do stay tuned to the next IAS YouTube channel.